Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Think Tank Sports. Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen. Check us out on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen to us on podcast, Spotify for podcasters. Trying to get that right because it's transitioned from Anchor or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are out there for your listening ears. And watch us on YouTube as we continue our YouTube journey out there. We are in the midst of our many podcast baseball preview. If you haven't gone and listened to it, today we dropped. So today is Tuesday. Yes. Today is Tuesday, the 28th. Earlier today, we dropped our AL Central preview with Brendan Burke, and he gave us some great insights into the Tigers and the division. So check that out. But tonight, we focus on our beloved New York Yankees. You can tell if you're watching on YouTube, Mike and I have our Yankees attire. I got my Yankees shirt on. Mike's got a Yankees shirt on. You got rings. Yeah, we got a bunch of them. We need more though. Sure. I could always want to have more rings. So we're going to talk Yankees in this podcast, dedicate a podcast to the Yankees and their season. Mike, first of all, Mike, how the heck are you?
Good. Good. I'm really excited about this podcast. So let's just launch right into it. Go.
Yeah. Was thinking about it, looking at the roster, and there's a lot of different pieces to talk about, but geez Louise, it's the same team as last year. And, we had our frustrations with this team the second half of the season and into the playoffs. And I'm looking at the roster and I'm going, okay. Look, I've paid attention. We've had some spots here and there where we've talked about some of the moves and things. And certainly, adding Carlos Rodon was a huge get to bolster the rotation, but him, like so many others, starting the season on the injured list. But Mike, so initial thoughts there from you as I looked at the roster and just went, wow, this is like there's all the same guys.
There's some names that I'm happy to see listed as bench players like IKF and Donaldson. There's some names I'm happy to see back and healthy, like LeMahieu in particular. Rizzo, hopefully his back spasms are, he's always going to battle them, especially as he gets older. I'll need some time off, but we're good there. Yeah, you're right. Not a lot of changes in the rotation. I'm very curious about the bullpen when we get there. That's going to be very interesting to see how that stacks up and who emerges as truly the closer, because we can both, and all Yankee fans, I hope, can admit that Clay Holmes down the stretch was not the answer. Below 1 ERA most of the season, and then like the Yankees last 6 weeks of the season really sputtered into mediocrity and really wasn't as trustworthy as you want a closer to be in the postseason. So I guess, Dave, yes, I agree that the roster is basically the same, but I do like the subtleties, and I think I give big kudos to bringing up Anthony Volpe. We'll have to start right there. It's the biggest thing in the offseason. After Judge was signed and made captain, especially the spring. Volpe, had a tremendous spring, and they were probably going to bring him north anyway, but he's the starter. He's been the future at shortstop for several years now since he was drafted. And just like we talked about Spencer Torkelson yesterday with Brendan and the Tigers, Volpe, it's time to see what he's got. It's time to deliver. I think they've handled him just right pacing wise, which is unusual because how many players have we complained about them ruining, Clint Frazier's and all these pitchers, and it's just unbelievable what they've done to some of the prospects. But so right there, I'll start right there, and want to hear what you think about Anthony Volpe and generally what they did, moving those veterans to the bench and bringing Volpe and keeping Glaber at second.
Yeah, no, I think it's
who would have thought we started middle infield for the 2023 New York Yankees?
Yeah,
but it's big.
Yeah, it's the right move, but I also like it because they made it a competition, and you saw Cashman and Boone and even
Right.
Aaron Judge all comment and say, "Look, this guy is playing so well." So he really stepped up, and them saying that, they made it, an easy choice,
Mhm.
because he played so well. He hit 309 in the spring with 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, uh, 13 runs scored. His OPS was 1.033. He's the full package. Now, he's going to have to handle being at shortstop and all of that magic. And, he even mentioned, like, it's crazy that he's going to be standing where Jeter was, and doing all that. So, we'll see
Right.
how he is on the big stage, but he has shown so far he's done all the right things. And I'm glad. Now, don't get me
Right.
wrong. I really like Oswald Peraza. Sad to see that he was sent down to the minors. He did not play particularly well in the spring, and that's kind of
Right.
where they base things
And when
at.
you
But
have a veteran like IKF that you're financially tied to, is just a numbers game, unfortunately. But as we saw, and we see every year, injuries, he probably will catch that shuttle back and forth from AAA quite a bit this year, I would think.
yeah, I
But
mean,
you're right.
yeah,
Good young kid. Love what he did for us last year as far as effort and hustle and athleticism. Very valuable as far as utility. Um, but his counterpart too, Oswaldo Cabrera, makes this team as the jack of all trades. So while we're
yes,
talking middle infield, Cabrera certainly can do. He played every position but pitcher and catcher in spring, even some first base. Now we got Rizzo at first. LeMahieu can back him up and put Donaldson at third. So if Cabrera's at first, we're having some issues, but it's been that way a couple of years in a row. So maybe we will see him. But Oswaldo Cabrera makes this roster a completely different type of athleticism and excitement. When you talk about Bader and center, and we'll get to all that. But I love where the middle infield is and the flexibility of the infield positions right now, Dave. What say you?
yeah, and Cabrera, another great spring, 333, four
Oh
home
yeah,
runs, 14 RBIs.
he looked like a big leaguer from the moment he stepped to the plate last year. He
Yeah,
just looks, he's so athletic and comfortable.
yep.
So I'm not surprised, I guess.
No, I mean, you think about early on last year with some of the great catches in right field, and then when he ends up, more regularly in left field. Yeah, he's been
Yeah.
great. And we have to be excited to have kind of some youth and some energy there. And folks, this is what Mike's talking about, some of these tweaks. I mean, obviously Cabrera was on the roster.
Right. But now he has a role,
But
and
now he has a defined role.
right.
Yep. And so I
So
think,
good.
that's really great. The wild card, I think when you talk about the infield, is really LeMahieu.
Yeah. And
Just,
only because of his health.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, only because of his health. We're still looking at the toe, and, he seems to be doing fine, but what's going to happen when he plays, 40 games in 35 days and,
40 games in 35 days.
yeah, sorry, 40
Wow.
games in 45
I
days.
know the schedule's
Yeah,
changed this
I
year, but
went the
that's
wrong
aggressive.
way. I was like, wait a minute, that means multiple doubleheaders. No, like
Sorry, I
40.
couldn't let that
No,
one
no,
go.
it's totally fine. But like 40 games in 45 days, when
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
just
yeah.
not
I
going to
got you.
get a lot of time off.
Right.
Let's see how that goes. But when he's healthy, look, he's one of the best hitters in the league.
Right.
And so what does that do? And where does he push? Right.
Right.
The other big swing, I think you were starting to say third base. Josh Donaldson had a decent spring, 256, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs.
Yeah.
Had a 985 OPS, which is higher than his career average. Again, it's spring training, but seems to be, kind of locked in. Boone has said, hey, look, this,
Oh, Boone loves him. Yeah.
there was a moment where he said that you need to do that. That's where you're at. But if Donaldson slips at all, and LeMahieu's playing, you're going to see LeMahieu play. I think
So
more at third base than second. Because I just think,
Yeah.
I think Glaber's going to have another good year. And he just seems to be really well suited.
and you have IKF and Oswaldo Cabrera too, that,
Yep.
you need to get into the lineup. So I think third base, if LeMahieu's, durability faults him and we get to see Donaldson from last year, by the end of the season, it could be interesting that they might have to make a decision or trade deadline anyway.
Yeah.
At that position. Now what about catcher, Dave? Now Jose Trevino had like career year, really solidified
all-star
himself, Yankee legend from now on, and that was wonderful to see. Can he repeat it? And I don't think he needs to do it quite as well as he did to have a successful season, but close to that level. And then Higashioka followed back up again. Are we comfortable with the catcher position?
Yeah, I think so. And for the love of God, can we see Rortvedt play, please? Yeah.
I'm fine without seeing him play. I like these two guys. So
yeah, no, I know, but
you're saying.
Rortvedt is 25 years old. He's younger than both of them. He's supposed to be really good. Was part of a good trade with Minnesota. He really didn't play at all last year for the Yankees. So it would be nice to see him get some time. And so we could actually see what he can do. Right. But at this point, with Trevino and Higgy, we know how well they handled the pitching staff.
Anything from the plate's a bonus. If it comes down to their hitting to successful season, then we're in trouble.
Right.
It should never come down to that. So,
no.
But they can't be a black hole either. And so I think they're both. I like both of them up in clutch position opportunities too. I'd like to see some numbers on that. I'll have to do a deep dive on that. But for me, when they come up runners on base, I'm like, okay, we got something going here. Other people like Donaldson last year, it was like or Hicks. Well,
yeah, there's black hole right there.
Right. So
Trevino had a ton of big hits last year, particularly early on. Higgy had some, but yeah, the offensive contributions, if they can, be average, that's more than plenty. And I think we can, that's something I think we can pencil
reasonably assume it's going to happen.
Yeah, with some fair amount of confidence, as far as that goes. So that's the whole infield.
Yeah, no, I like a lot overall where the infield is at. Athleticism wise, defensively, I think continues to improve, and with the no shift, it'll be very interesting to see what kind of second base Glaber plays. I'm not sure he's had to play the ball up the middle. A 97 hopper up the middle when we were kids was a base hit.
Yes.
The last 10 years it hasn't been.
Yeah,
we're gonna see what happens.
It's so funny that you said that. I heard Harold Reynolds today.
Yep.
And he said that exact. Well, he said this. He said he had been talking to Buck Showalter, and Showalter had mentioned how many balls had been hit up the middle, hit off of pitchers. And he said the same thing. He said when we were younger, hits like that, they'd be base hits, but the last bunch of years they've been outs. So he also mentioned you can't just throw kind of anybody at second base. Now you've got to have somebody that can make some plays. And so, I agree with you. I think that Glaber is up to the task because again, he came in as shortstop. He's got a strong arm. He's got range. So I think he can make those plays, but I agree with you that there's going to be more opportunities for him to make plays. And for a lot of the second basemen than there have been in the last bunch of years.
Think about Volpe too, up through the minors. I believe last year, didn't they play with no shift? or I don't know if it was in AAA or not. I know there's some minor leaguers that have played with the no shift for a year. And
Yeah,
so
no,
they might be a little more accustomed to
yeah,
making those plays up the middle. It's a minor point and a minor point in the season, but him as opposed to IKF who's been in the league for a while, but
yeah.
he probably hasn't. It'll be weird for him not to shift. You know what I mean?
Yep. Nope, and that's fair. That's fair.
All right, let's go to the outfield. I already mentioned his name, so
Oh,
the Alistair Black, the Mr. Crowley of center field,
Mr. Crowley.
Aaron Hicks. Wow, I couldn't. I guess I'm going to focus all my negativity on him this year.
Oh yeah. Oh, I look.
Yeah.
He got booed in spring training, and he had a similar play, where he lollygagged and dropped the ball, and just like the foul ball that happened in the game last year, where they eventually had to take him out of the game. The only reason he's on this team, Mike, is because they owe him so much money. I don't. There's any question about
contract,
that.
Absolutely, nobody would touch him. He's in Jacoby Ellsbury territory almost.
Yeah,
except he's healthy.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Last year it was, he had lost all this weight. He was healthy. He was gonna, steal more bases, hit more home runs, and he was the same old Aaron Hicks, and actually got worse. Now
he could steal some bases. He could do that, but he's got to get
out. Now you have Oswaldo Cabrera out there. Florial has made the roster. The talk of putting Judge in left field.
Yeah. What's Bader's injured? Is it the plantar fasciitis from last year that he's still?
Bader has a left oblique injury. So
I somehow missed that.
Yeah, it came up in an at bat during spring training. So he's won't start
he won't be available. Right. So you're gonna have Hicks, Cabrera. I'm hoping. I mean, Judge did great in center field, but
I think you're going to see Judge in center field.
Yeah,
and Hicks in left, and then you put. Well, you're going to do Stanton in right, Cabrera probably in right.
That every depth chart I saw today had Stanton in right and Cabrera on the bench to start the season. Yeah. But it could be just opening day for all we know. Yeah. I don't mind Stanton in the outfield. I know it's been seems to be a bigger deal with the Yankees than it does for him or the fans, but I don't mind him. He's got a decent arm, certainly big and athletic, just don't want him to get hurt, but also seems to be a little more engaged when he's playing defense.
Yep, absolutely. We've seen that over the past few years and he's even said it. It's hard for him to be going down in the cage and when he's DHing and just swinging and kind of being away from the team and, trying to stay warm and ready. But when he's out in the field, that's happening for him regularly. So we'll see how they juggle the roster still hasn't been set. So, it's Tuesday. Yeah. I think they got another day. And
so, we probably want to see it till 4:00 Thursday or whenever. I don't know when the first pitch is.
It's early. They got
West Coast.
The 1:00. No, they're playing in Yankee Stadium.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was saying weather permitting.
Yeah. Okay.
But so
the outfield, this is where the big boppers have to come from, right? These are the meat eaters in our lineup and in our defensive lineup here. These guys have to be offensive first and defense okay, but especially Judge and Stanton. Stanton needs to have a full season of his classic Stanton. I'm not saying he needs to hit 59, but he needs to be a threat in the middle that he can be.
Yeah, and 30 to 35 home runs would be
great.
Would be great. And he's more than capable of doing that, as long as he stays healthy, like you say, and injuries certainly have been, a huge issue for him.
What about Judge? What are you thinking for his season this year?
I'd be happy if he 40 home runs. There's no need for him to be pushing 62. I was reading today that he has spent time looking at his 2 strike swings. over the course of last season. So
he doesn't seem to be over swinging or
no,
changing
but he
his
still
launch
strikes out a
angle.
lot.
Oh yeah, that's always.
And
Listen, if something doesn't improve with the low strike with him this season, there ought to be the Yankee front office should be marching on Major League Baseball's offices, because how many times do we see that low strike just kill him? And it's always at the worst time in the count or the worst time in the inning. But yeah, that low strike has been a bugaboo for umpires. So it'll be interesting to see if that changes at all this year as well.
175 strikeouts for Judge last year. Second highest total in his career, back to his rookie year when he struck out 208 times.
Well, you forget that with all the.
But he also walked 127 times his rookie year, hit 52 home runs, and drove in 114. So, there was. There was a lot to say about that. And certainly last year, Judge had a year for the ages.
Historic.
As far as that goes. But I agree,
home run here in the history of baseball.
The Big Bopper, we saw in limited action how good Harrison Bader is in center field. Once he's out there, their defense is going to be so much better. I just, Hicks is a real liability out there defensively. I would much rather see Cabrera out there, or Florial out there, or Judge there, and Stanton and Wright. We're going to see. I mean, they're going to have to juggle it all. If Hicks doesn't hit, though, I can't see him continuing to be in the lineup
this year. Got to be.
I mean, you've got Cabrera pushing them. So
pitching staff. Let's tackle the bullpen first, because we know all the injuries on the starters. We'll get to that. I mean, here's where I am, Dave. Why isn't Jonathan Loizaga the closer? He's been groomed to be the closer. He's got the stuff. He's got that nasty movement. He could do a 2-inning thing because his arm's so strong if you wanted him to. I know he had some arm issues last year and took a while to get back, but I really, in my heart of hearts, when I look at this bullpen, think Loizaga, and then I would even take Greg Weissert over the way Michael King finished last year also, and Clay. So that's how I feel about the bullpen. The rest of it, what do you think?
It's tough.
These names?
I like Weissert certainly came on at the end of the year. I saw today that he got sent down to AAA.
So he did get sent down.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Kind of waiting to see, and they didn't really announce who was replacing him in the lineup, which is interesting because you have, Trevino and Canely, who are both on the IL. So the bullpen is going to, it's going to be
also beat up a little bit.
It beat up Canely early on.
Comes back, was with the Yankees, and then went over to the Dodgers for a couple of years. Didn't really do much. Had a lot of arm issues.
Had the Tommy John.
Right, and so now he's back. I'll follow him closely because he's a local kid. He went to Shaker, Dave.
Yes.
So local to us in Albany, New York. So
I think there's lots of good arms there.
But I guess King Loizaga is an impressive back end if Holmes and King can bounce back a little. But again, you got the poo-poo platter of a good ton of innings. Old friend Lucas Licky is gone, buddy. The lefty, remember him?
Thank God. Who?
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly. So who's going to be, the next person that Boone pulls out of the bullpen just about every night?
I think the candidate is Marinaccio. He pitched
and Peralta. Those are
he pitched great, down the stretch after a rough beginning. He became
his first outing was brutal, and then he really bounced back.
So I think he's a candidate. Trevino, when he's healthy, I think is another spot. You have Albert Abreu as well. Came back at the end of last year. So yeah, I mean, ho hum. I mean, there's some good. I think Michael King really excites me. Loizaga with a full season of health really excites me. Canely, if he can come back, I mean, his fastball.
Oh yeah,
With him
tremendous.
and Chad Green a few years ago, I mean, those guys were just throwing smoke and dominating.
Yeah, no more Chad Green either.
Yeah. So, I think we have to, there's some wait and see because of some of the injuries.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I wouldn't surprise me to see Loizaga close a couple of games.
Yeah, I just think that's where it's been heading. And well, what are we waiting for at this
Yep.
point? Starters, Dave, Garrett Cole is the ace, always going to be in Cy Young contention. Has been very good for us in the regular season. Postseason's a different story. Uh, and I think he's kind of lived up mostly to the contract and the reputation, but
Yes.
still I'd like to see him have 10% more success this year, a couple more wins, just stay healthy. He just seems to get in those funks and takes forever to get out of. So,
Yep.
But as far as aces go in Major League Baseball, we could do a lot worse than Garrett Cole.
Oh yeah, we're in great shape. He's done a lot, and been the anchor, no doubt.
Sure.
The challenge is the home runs. I mean, he gave up 33 home
Right.
runs. That's
a
got
lot
to
of them
get
the bases where I'm seeing here now, but still, that can't happen. That's too many.
Yeah, a lot of them early on in games where they'd end up getting
Right.
behind, and so there's got to be some that and he knows it. He's been talking about it. He still says, "I'm going to give up home runs," but it's the situational stuff I think is what has hurt him.
Right.
But beyond that, no. I mean, he's a top. He's an ace.
So what? Right now, our second day pitcher is Clark Schmidt, if I'm correct.
Yes,
Right?
Clark Schmidt is going to pitch. Yes,
And then
because
Nestor.
Yep.
Okay. And then Herman right now is 4.
Yeah, Herman, and then this
Burrito.
Johnny Burrito. Johnny Burrito. Say it slower. It sounds like burrito. He pitched very well in the spring.
Yeah.
So we'll see. He may be up because you have, of course, Carlos Rodon is out with the left forearm, an injury he had with the Giants last year and was able to come back from relatively easily, and he was extremely effective. Severino is the one we just found out with the right lat strain. And so that's why Clark Schmidt is going to pitch the second game. And of course, our good friend Frankie Montas, who pitched a little bit, was hurt, was building himself up over the off season and got hurt again with a right shoulder. So he's on the IL. We don't expect to see him till the second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, Clark Schmidt, Domingo Herman, those guys, and Johnny Brito, those guys are going to carry the back end of the rotation for potentially half the season, Mike.
Well, it would be nice to have Jordan Montgomery back, but
yeah,
guy 8 innings as a lefty. I don't know.
Or Jameson Tyone. Tyone was great last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rondon is an upgrade, but health wise is a risk. So I think once they're healthy, Dave, that this would be a very formidable pitching staff.
Right. But half the season.
Question went right. So last year we started something crazy like 80 and 30, and then kind of coasted the rest of the way. I'm almost feeling like this year is going to be the opposite. Start slow and finish strong, but so I think pitching staff is going to be going to be a bigger question than offense this year.
Yep. No, I agree. Yeah, look, Herman has been over his Yankee career very good.
Yeah.
And so if he's a very reliable back end starter. I think so is Clark Schmidt. Schmidt has been injured a bit. He's got to prove himself a little bit more. Although he did have he did have some good moments last year. But yeah, and then we talked about the bullpen. I think you're right on, Mike. I think the challenge is going to be more on the pitching side than it is going to be on the offensive side.
So we danced around it a little bit. Today we did put out a Twitter poll. And so we asked how many regular season wins will the Yankees have this 2023 season? And your options were record setting, which currently has no votes, century mark, which has half the votes, enough to win the NL, no votes, and it doesn't matter the other half of the votes, but it's very, very, very early. So get on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram and let us know what you think. Of course, you could always choose to comment that you like none of the above, like Greg Dobbs.
Mark Dodds, yes, we hear you there. Thank
Mark
you for
Dodds or Greg Dobbs.
Thank you for contributing nothing to our
to our polls.
Yes.
So I know Vegas Insiders at 94.5.
94.5.
Big reveal after all of this. What say you about the New York Yankees regular season win total?
That feels about right.
94.5.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say over because I feel it's like 95.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, I don't see them much more than that, and part of it is because how good the division is.
We'll talk about those guys in a second, but yeah, absolutely.
You just don't have those opportunities like the AL Central we talked about last night, where you have some teams you might be able to beat up on a little bit, and it's not the case in the AL East. So I think that's why, for me, I think 95 or 94. I mean, I think it's pretty much right on. I don't think it's going to be any more than that.
I'm going to take the under, and that's only because we're so injured to start the season. And when you're talking the difference between 90 wins and 100 wins or record-setting wins, that makes a difference. You need to start healthy and then hope to maintain.
Gotcha.
So I'll take the under, but not by a lot. In the 90s, enough to win or be right there with the Astros in the American League. And go from there. So let's talk about the division real quick, Dave. Who do you see as the number one contender? I'm curious.
It's when you look at Toronto and you look at Tampa, Tampa, their pitching is just so good.
Right.
I think that part is really challenging. And so I try to compare. I think for me that certainly Toronto's offense is so unbelievable. And so I try to look at, where I think the differences are. And I think, the difference is Tampa's pitching. But we'll see, right? Toronto picks up, Chris Bassett from the Mets, who had a really good year. They got Eric Swanson, the reliever from the Mariners, who had a really good year too.
Absolutely.
You expect Jose Barrios to bounce back a little bit.
Who's their closer that got hurt at the beginning of last year?
Jeez, I was looking at it earlier.
Was it Jansen? Kenley Jansen or no?
Oh, geez, was it?
I don't know if he ended up there. I don't remember now.
That's right. Yeah, I'm going to. No, Jordan Romano.
Oh yes, right.
Had a great year last year.
Yeah, got it. I thought they had signed someone who got hurt, and then they ended up elevating Romano, and he had a great year, but maybe not. Anyway, it doesn't matter this year. I agree. I think Tampa as well, Dave, because of what you said, and I also believe that they're going to play a brand of baseball that other teams aren't going to play. They're going to be Maybe one or two other teams will play. Dude, very aggressive on the bases, and stealing and bunting and sacrifice. Some old school hit and run type
Right.
stuff.
Stuff that they've done, stuff that it's in their DNA. And
Right.
So I think now
they let their big boppers hit, but everyone else contributes. So when the boppers come up, it's time, and then their pitching staff is just locked down.
Yeah. So I think if I had, put my feet to the fire here, what you were doing, I would take Tampa next, with Toronto right there. And it's really splitting hairs. And if you look at the Vegas Insider, Toronto at 90.5, Tampa at 89.5. So,
right.
Those are
I'd
very, very
flip-flop
close.
them myself, but
but they're going to be right there. Both teams are going to be, right at close to 90 wins. It's
and
really
some of these websites and podcasts, I know they're trying to get clickbait or whatever, but they got the Orioles third, and that's just ridiculous. I mean, they had a nice season. They're a good, exciting young team with a couple of, Reichman and Santander, and all those guys are nice, but they just don't have the firepower to compete. And then the Red Sox, they don't even know what they're doing, Dave. They're a shambles, and I couldn't be happier about it. So they are at 78.5, and Baltimore is at 76.5 for Vegas Insider. And I don't see Baltimore winning that many games.
Oh no, I was thinking maybe they would be a little bit more. I was thinking Baltimore would be over the 76.5.
You're right. Same, flip it.
Yeah, they were 83 and 79 last year. Boston was 78 and 84. So they're basically saying Boston's going to be about the same as what they were last year, and they think Baltimore is going to go down a little bit.
All right, let's do. We're going to wrap it up here, but let's do this little exercise to wrap it up, Dave.
Yeah.
Talk about. I think you and I was going to ask the question on our poll of what would make a successful season for the Yankees in 2023, but it's World Series or bust, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's no sense to ask.
No.
Until we deal with the Astros in the proper manner, and make the World Series, it is what it is.
Yeah. And so very quick, interestingly, looking at the schedule, the Yankees do not play the Astros until August.
Wow.
There's a 4-game series at Yankee Stadium at the beginning of August, and a 3-game series in Houston at the beginning of September. And that's typical. It's usually about 7 games, but they don't play them till August.
Interesting.
Which could bode well as we talk about the Yankees getting healthy.
ESPN, the vaunted Death Star,
worldwide leader in sports,
released their MLB power rankings for the season. So here's the question I'm asking you to, as we go down this power rankings list. Every team I mentioned, yes or no, can they win the World Series this year? Can you picture this team winning the World Series? Their number one is the Houston Astros.
Yep. They're the clear-cut favorite, no doubt.
The number 2 is the San Diego Padres, Dave. They predict a 93 and 60 record with an 81% chance of winning making the playoffs.
If they can stay healthy, yes, they can win.
They finally spend enough money, you think?
Right. Yes.
Number 3, the Atlanta Braves. Yes or no, can win the World Series?
Yes.
Not as strong as an Atlanta team as it has been, but yes.
Right. Dansby Swanson is gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Freddie Freeman 2 years ago, obviously, you're different DNA. Number 4, the New York Yankees. We both agree, right? Can win it all.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Number 5, according to ESPN power rankings, Dodgers, Los Angeles Dodgers. Turner brothers are gone.
Gavin Lux is gone for the season.
Gavin Lux, Bellinger is no longer on the team.
Yep. You mentioned Trey Turner. Yep.
Yeah. Justin Turner, Trey Turner. New look Dodgers, for a chance, didn't get better in the offseason, in my opinion.
But they're still they're very, very
Can
deep.
they win?
Yeah. Oh, they definitely can. Yep.
New York Mets. I don't want to break them down yet, but can they win the World
Yeah,
Series?
no, I mean, I certainly think they can.
Everybody stays healthy. Nobody celebrates or
Yeah,
blows up a
too late for that.
luggage. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think so. Obviously, with Buck there, major culture change. Yes.
Philadelphia Phillies made the World Series last year, have some pretty
Mm,
significant injuries, including Harper, who, in my opinion, was in the running for MVP,
yes, he was.
and Reese Hoskins, who is a heart and soul type player, gone for the year.
I'm going to say no on the Phillies. One, I think it's hard to repeat, and I just with Atlanta and the Mets in the division, I and San
This
Diego
not
at full
okay.
health.
This is not will they win, can they win? I guess, if that makes a difference.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you. I was
No, you
just
don't think
throwing
they can win.
some extra stuff in. No, I don't think they can.
So far you got 6 teams.
Yep.
Out of 7. Toronto Blue Jays listed 8th on ESPN. Can they win it? Can you picture them winning it?
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay. All right. St. Louis Cardinals. 9th.
No, I'm not. I'm not feeling that from them.
Really? Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Lars Nootbaar in the outfield, 97-year-old Adam Wainwright on the mound.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So this is the team I want to get to. Seattle Mariners, number 10. They have them above the Rays at 11. And then I think all the teams drop off drastically. 12 is the Guardians, 13 is the Brewers, 14 is the Twinkies, 15 is the Angels.
Yeah, I think the drop off is there. I can't see Seattle.
They have the White Sox 18th
winning.
So no for Seattle.
No for Seattle.
You don't think Dipoto would make enough moves at the trade deadline to try and?
I mean, he might.
But who's available? Right?
Yeah, he might. But yeah, I'm just. I don't know. I mean, I guess that you could look at their division. They certainly could beat up on.
So roughly going in, you're saying there's probably 8 teams you can picture winning the World Series this year.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's fair.
Which, is interesting because it seems like there's always a team, that pops up one year and has a great year and you go, holy cow. And, they somehow, like Seattle last year, and get into the playoffs.
We should probably, I don't know if we'll get to the AL Central West, wherever Texas is. Where's Texas now?
Yep. They're in the West. Yep.
They're in the West. I think that's the team is going to pop up and do some things this year. But let's wrap it up. We're going to have Jeremy on from Los Angeles to talk about the Dodgers and West Coast teams. We're going to talk to who's Anthony, our friend Tony. In New York City? Tony,
we're going to talk to Tony. Yep.
Tony, we've talked to him many years in a row about the
Mets,
Metropolitans,
the National League East,
in the National League East,
all the teams that he hates because he brings it up every year how much he hates. Well, this team I don't like. Well, I don't like this team either. I really don't like that team. I really don't like the whole division.
Right. We can start from there this year. Yeah. And you're also going to re-release our new rules podcast for the new baseball rules, just as a refresher as the season starts. So, folks, thank you. A lot of content coming at you, fast and furious. But please interact with us. Let us know if there's a team you think that we're not giving enough attention to. That would be great to hear what you have to say. I'm curious what people think about the Angels this year and Ohtani's potential last season, out there before he might move on. And anything else really that you want to talk baseball, rule changes, the new pitch clock, all that stuff. We'd love to chop it up with you here at Think Tank Sports, because we think and you listen as we strive to thrive. Good night.
See you, everybody.